This is House Talk with Wally and Cindy Kerr. Today's real estate podcast is presented by Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage and Best Protect Roofing and Construction. You can catch all of the previous shows and podcasts by visiting the library of topics at wallytalkshouses.com. Let's join Wally and Cindy for this week's podcast.
Hey, welcome to House Talk with Wally and Cindy Kerr. Right into my funny story this week. You okay with a funny story to start our show?
Sure, I love it.
There's an Aldi store, one of those grocery stores in Chicago, and a coyote got into the produce section, and the people that worked there didn't know what to do. So they called the police, naturally, right?
What you should do, right? When a coyote gets in your store.
You used to tell me when you worked for the Glendale Fire Department, you were always getting these calls to the fire department because somebody's cat was up in a tree, right?
Right.
And did the fire department actually go out on those calls?
No, we would say, just give it time. The cat will come down. We're not going to send an area ladder out for your cat.
Well,
sorry.
It doesn't work that way when you get a coyote in the store. So if you're sitting near a computer or on your phone, just go research the words coyote in Aldi store. So the policeman comes in and is digging back. Now, coyotes this time of year are mating, but the ones that don't mate start getting into mischief. Well, it wasn't a raccoon, it wasn't a dog, so this coyote gets inside the store, crawls back, I think behind the lettuce in the produce section. A policeman shows up, to make the story short, gets a stick, moves the coyote around, grabs the coyote's tail, pulls it out. The coyote runs a few steps and jumps back into the produce again. There's a great video online. As of yesterday, over 8 million views on that video of this coyote in Chicago.
And you know what's so funny is coyotes are carnivores, so I wonder why it was so excited about the lettuce.
I have no idea why it was in the produce section. So let's move, Cindy, from Chicago and go to California, where there's a lot going on. It's where you're from. I know you had a house in Altadena.
In Altadena, and I did live in Altadena, and you've probably seen the Eaton fire. It's the second largest fire going on right now behind the Palisades fire. And boy, my heart, and I know your heart, just goes out to those people.
So it takes me back. We talked a little segment back on our radio show about climate change. I thought it was wild that this past week that we had about 5 inches of snow in Norman, about 3 in Edmond and Oklahoma City. But did you see where my mom is from, Atoka, way down in southeastern Oklahoma, like 8 to 11 inches of snow. So what's this global warming? I don't quite get it, because in some instances, like the hurricanes, they said the Caribbean Ocean was 6 degrees warmer this year than average, which is crazy, and more tornadoes. We saw that on TV recently, where this year was like number 2 on record. Now you've got these wildfires, probably because it didn't rain for like 8 months out in California, yet we've got really cold weather. I think this weekend we had it recently. Got 5 inches of snow. It just hardly makes sense. And it's changing our world, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, having lived in California, and for those people who have lived in Southern California, the Santa Ana winds, it's a reversal of the winds. They blow in off the desert. It's a dry, arid wind, and they are just wicked. And that's what is driving these fires. So it got me thinking, Wally, as I was talking to our agents this week about how this would affect our buyers and sellers here in Oklahoma. And we were talking, and I said, boy, I wonder what this is going to do to insurance nationwide.
Well, that's a great question. Do you have some answers maybe for our listeners today?
I do. So I emailed Skylar Hake of Heritage Insurance Advisors, because he's the one we go to have all of our insurance written on our rental properties.
Yeah, absolutely. The rates are great, and the service has been fantastic, and we've been with I think a lot of our stuff was Safeco and has been for maybe 6 or 7 years, right?
That's right. And I said, Skylar, tell me how this devastation in California with billions of losses, how might this affect our buyers and sellers, people insuring their homes here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, what a great question.
And you know what he said? It was interesting. I said, is it definitely going to raise our rates here? And he said, I don't believe we will see a direct rate increase due to the wildfires. What I do believe is we will continue to see increases in minimum deductibles and changes in coverage offered. We already have many carriers at a 2% and even 3% minimum wind hail deductible.
Okay, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yes.
So when people hear 2 or 3%, that doesn't sound like a lot of money,
Yes.
does it? But if you've got a $300,000 home, now that's what the insurance carrier is insuring it for.
Yes.
That's how they determine a deductible. So let's say that your home is being insured. Let's pick a bigger one. Say your home is insured for $400,000, and that's what your insurance company and your mortgage lender require because of what you owe on your home.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So a 2% deductible is $8,000, and a 3% deductible is $12,000. Now that's out of pocket, for instance, to go replace your roof shingles.
Right.
Is that right?
That's right. And so that's a huge amount, and you're absolutely right. 2 and 3% don't sound like much, but when you put it to numbers, it is a lot. He also said this affects the availability of finding coverage, as I believe we will continue to see tighter underwriting guidelines and restrictions as carriers do their best to stabilize their pricing and find some predictability. Ultimately, the higher frequency and severity of catastrophic losses, both inside and outside of Oklahoma, are forcing changes to coverage and pricing. And I think we will see increased deductibles, reduced coverage, especially for roofs as a whole. And I think we will see increased deductibles and reduced coverage, especially for roofs in Oklahoma, as insurance as a whole adapts to the current weather and climate trends over the next few years. Really, it's not meaning it's going to go up immediately, but these are things that are going to happen, and this is going to be important for our buyers to budget and be aware of these things, that as the world changes and things happen in Florida and things happen in California, and of course our tornadoes, that insurance is going to go up.
Yeah, this is a big deal. So did he say anything about maybe the fact that maybe there would be no coverage on roof shingles in the future? I mean, I understand that if a home burns down, it's a much greater loss. If there's a hailstorm, maybe it's a $10, $12, $15, $20, $30,000 replacement. Is there a chance you think that insurance companies could just at one point look up and say, no more coverage on roof shingles? We're not going to cover for hail damage?
You know, that was a question that one of the agents and we were kind of talking about that and saying, I wonder if roof hail insurance is going to go away.
Yeah, but right now we're talking about more like 2 and 3% deductibles, but that's a big number. I think
that is a big number, and I don't. According to Schuyler, he didn't indicate that roof insurance is going to go away, but I do think people need to make sure they're budgeting because your insurance is not going to stay the same.
Yeah, I think that's what you were alluding to. So this is where we'll close our show by telling you today that the goal here is to give you information and advice you can bank on, which is what we've been doing for 37 years each. Mm-hmm. My gosh, 74 years of real estate between us. Here's the goal, is to help you understand when you agree to make a house payment, how that could change.
That's right.
Refiguring the taxes based on what you're going to pay for the home, not what they are right now. You had a really interesting subject that you brought up the other day about someone buying a home.
One of our agents mentioned that to me.
Go ahead and tell everybody.
He has a listing right now where the person is going to have to sell it because their insurance has gone up so much, and they bought it with a different company, and that company didn't tell them to file homestead exemptions. So this seller did not do that.
And so what happened was the property taxes were allowed to go up like 5% in a year instead of 3% in a year, which is if you file homestead. If any of that sounds confusing, taxes are a big deal. That's going to change your payment. Insurance is going to change your payment. What you just said, Cindy, was budgeting properly. If all of a sudden you've got insurance today and your insurance company converts that from a 1% deductible over to a 2 or 3% deductible, you got to have that slush fund we've talked about so many times to be able to cover what the out-of-pocket expense could be after a severe storm.
And I think sometimes people think about the fact that they have a fixed rate loan and they think about the fact that their payment is going to stay the same. Well, that's true. Principal and interest are going to stay the same, but taxes and insurance are not.
Yeah, 100%. And what we're seeing right now, Cindy, is the 10-year Treasury is continuing to climb, which means 30-year mortgage rates and even 15-year mortgage rates are also going up. I would say it's becoming very, very evident in this marketplace that waiting to buy a home, wouldn't you agree, is not the best strategy right now?
Absolutely.
And here's why. So the rates are going up. Hey, the inventory, Cindy, since the 1st of December is down 1,000 homes in the Oklahoma City multi-list.
Wow.
It was just over 10,500 homes with signs in the yard, which is homes for sale, and then the ones that already have a contract on them. Now that's down to 9,500 homes with signs in yards over the last 45 days. Some people have just decided not to sell.
Right.
So there will be more competition as we get into March, April, May, June, the prime time of year. Interest rates are going up, not down. Looks like insurance is continuing to maybe be kind of volatile. This is where we want to give you our best possible advice in buying and selling a home. And it can be tricky to time that, so don't forget that we have the Your Home Sold Guaranteed, or we'll buy it at a price agreeable to you up front. This means we come in, evaluate your home, give you a buyout price, put your home on the market. If it's not sold in time for closing on your new home, we step in and buy your current home so you don't get stuck making 2 payments at the same time.
And we just did that, didn't we, with a home in Norman? And
we did.
Tell us a little bit about that situation.
Yeah, so in this particular case, we got a call from an owner. She had had a wholesaler come in, wrote an offer on her home, and then the wholesaler was trying to go out and find somebody else to buy it, even though he had a contract on it, and he wanted them to buy it. He would never wanted to really take title and wanted to make a profit. So she really kind of got messed over. And then we also bought another one recently in Midwest City. And that little home, the lady needed, very, very nice, needed the guarantee and certainty that her home would be sold in time for closing on her new home.
That's
we gave
right.
her a guarantee and gave her a buyout that she was happy with.
That's what our program is about.
Well, we've got lots of programs too. So it's Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and we can also guarantee to sell your home for 100% of market value or pay you the difference up to a portion of the commission that we typically earn. Go research now Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and you will hit us here in the Metro. Call me and Cindy anytime at 330, call me or Cindy at 330-3000. We're here to help you make the right decisions. And by the way, if you have kids or grandkids or maybe somebody you're working with and you hear our podcast and feel like we're giving you good, solid information and advice, would you please refer them to us? When you refer to us, we're going to send you to dinner, and then we're going to give generously to the Children's Health Foundation because that's really important to us. Hope you enjoyed our podcast this week, and we will be back next week. Don't forget to go to our site, Wally. It should say Wally and Cindy.
But it just says Wally.
It says, well, we needed to make it shorter, so it's wallytalkshouses.com. You can subscribe to get notice of all new podcasts. It's a green button up in the upper right corner of your screen, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
This has been House Talk with Wally and Cindy Kerr, presented each week by Best Protect Roofing and Construction and by Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. Join us weekly to learn more about buying, selling, owning, and investing. And visit Wally Talks Houses to find all available podcasts and shows.